The flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are they first? We should move them up. Yeah, move it. Okay, do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to move, to remove 3B1 from the consent agenda. I just have a few questions.
Okay.
Remove it?
Do I have a
Remove
second?
it for discussion.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
And I'll make a motion then for the, to approve the consent agenda without 3B1.
Second. All those in favor? Mr. Eric?
Middle school, grade 5, MLOA, Andrea Palumbo.
Okay. The 3B1, the appointment of the computer clerk, is this a new position?
No.
Oh, okay, because we got the duties.
Yep, person-
So I didn't know if it was a new position. Is it a 180, 190?
It's 100 and it's year-round.
It's a year-round, okay. And it's an existing year-round
Yes.
with no new duties?
No.
Okay, thank you. So I move approval of 3B1.
Second. All those in favor? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to move 6A up.
Second.
All those in favor? Mr. Eric?
Yes?
6A, we moved it up.
Okay, Mr. Phillips is here from the boat building class. Bill's been before us with his students. They recently appeared up at the, is it the New England Boat Show?
The boat show.
The boat show that was held at the convention center that I
Yes,
saw you at.
yes.
So I'll turn it over to Bill, and I believe there's a slide presentation.
Yeah, I will be
that
brief.
Ms.
We
Larson
also have a
brought.
nice little presentation. Some of the kids, we had about a dozen kids that we took to the boat show for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Alec Figueredo, Ryan Phillips, Chris Buckley, and Aiden Bradley were some of the stars of the show. We have a bunch of kids that are at the basketball game tonight, and some kids had work, but these kids were gracious enough to come. We took one of our small boats up to the boat show, and one of our test tracks, and our 3D printer. And these kids, along with all the other kids, were the stars of the show. They talked to hundreds of people that stopped by, and they just were so proud and so knowledgeable about all the information and all of the classes that we're doing here. I think that the people that came up and stopped and talked to us had to be really impressed with these kids and all the other kids. We had a couple of MIT professors stop by early on Sunday, and they stopped and talked for a half an hour with these kids, and they came over to me afterwards, and they were just really impressed and really pleased that we're still teaching, good hands-on skills, engineering, pre-engineering, and they were really, really impressed. So that's, that was really exciting for Linda, myself, Zach, and Ed Fernandez to see
Mr.
the
Fernandez.
kids.
Yeah.
There's Ed right there, thank you. It was really better than any test we could give, better than any lesson we could teach. These kids stood up and talked to everybody with pride, and it was excellent. We made some really nice connections with companies in town and in Portsmouth, Don's Marine, the Pirate Cove Marina, New England Tech International Yacht Restoration School. They stopped by and talked to the kids. So we made some nice connections, maybe for some job shadowing possibilities. Just a really great weekend overall. I would like to thank everyone that was able to come and spend some time with us over the weekend. It was nice for me and the kids and Ed and Linda. We put a lot of time into this, and we all appreciate that everybody was able to come up and spend a little bit of time with us, a few hours. So that was greatly appreciated. Also, we went to the State House a few days prior to the boat show, and I would like to say thank you to everyone that came up to that. That was also a nice feather in our cap for the technology department. So I would also really like to thank Linda. She was great. She lots and lots of paperwork and time setting everything up and working with us and introducing us to all kinds of people. She's excellent, and I'm really glad that we have her on our team. So thank you very much. So I would like to now hit the button.
Hey, Mr. Phillips, you
Yes.
have one more student.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Eric. Sorry, Eric. Eric Ruther. He was up there for many, many hours. He's got boating in his genes. So he was a big asset as well. So thank you all for coming. So we can grab a seat and I can hopefully this button.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos and memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. But in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
The Providence Boat Show is the experience of a lifetime.
So thank you very much, and it was a great experience.
And thank you, and thank all the teachers that went, and the dedication, Mr. Rarick, I know you were up there, and it was and that State House also, it was just a wonderful experience for Tiverton.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Oh, for correspondence, we just have the treasurer's report that we passed out, right, Mr. Fiore?
Yes, we have the quarterly report that the town submitted on our behalf, which contains the financial information that we had through December. So there's really no surprises on it. It reflects what I had presented about a month ago for our December financials.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rarick, number 5?
5A?
Yeah.
Yes, this came up at our last meeting. Mrs. Herman brought the issue up regarding asking our legislators if they could draft legislation that deals with out-of-district vendors and what they can charge on an annual basis. And Carol's placed something in the packet. She shared it with me. I thought it hit on everything we talked about. So I'm placing it before the committee for your review, and if approved, I'll send it out under our letterhead.
Mrs. Herman, you talked to Representative Edwards about this
Yes, I did. I saw him in person, and he said he'd be happy to help us pursue this again this year. I was able to give him more specifics than I did last year. So
To refer to other states,
Right,
right?
the letter does have some links here to how this statewide rate-setting mechanism works in Massachusetts and in New Hampshire. And so the request is to have the General Assembly's Legislative Council look into drafting similar legislation for Rhode Island.
And I also noticed you said to contact the Rhode Island Commissioner of Education, that Mr. Andrade.
Yes, their legislative liaison. He works with the General Assembly, and I thought it would be helpful if the Department of Education would also get involved, because they may well play a critical role in New Hampshire. It is, this rate setting is done through their Department of Education. So their input would be helpful, and their support, obviously.
Does anyone have any questions? Dr. Walker? Yanni? No?
The only group that I might add is the Rhode Island Association of Superintendents.
Okay.
Oh,
If
good,
that
that's
include
right.
them, because we do a lot of lobbying
They'd be
at
interested
the
in
State
that.
House, so whether or
Yeah.
not they want to pursue it, at least make Mr. Ryan aware of it.
Yeah, that would be
Sure,
good.
the more support, the
Yeah.
better, the more
That's right.
people who are interested in pursuing this.
And I don't know, you
Yanni,
guys
how about
go-
the Rhode Island
I was gonna
Association of
say
School
RIAS.
Committees? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that would be
So send a
good.
letter to Tim Duffy as well.
Yeah, that would be good, I think.
Actually, if you could also copy of the Association of School Business Managers, they
There you
also
go.
have a lobbying
Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
liaison.
Okay, that's good.
All interested parties.
Yes,
That's good.
The only change I thought we might make, I wrote this a week ago and then looked at it. With the first sentence, it says, second line, the Tiverton School Committee would like to pursue adopting a rate-setting mechanism. Perhaps we should add the word statewide, just to make it clear from
Yeah,
the top that
Yeah.
we're looking to do something statewide, not just by ourselves.
that would be good. Yeah, expand it.
I might also recommend just taking out the 10% and just leaving it open-ended, because it possibly could be higher than 10% in any given year. So
Well, I wanted to give some idea that it's a problem for us, that it's not just small increases, so
You could say
if it's been more,
10%
10 or more, as,
or higher.
yeah, 10% or more a year?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions about it? No? Okay, do I have a motion then?
Second?
All those in favor?
Send it out.
Thank you.
That'd be
Thanks,
great.
Carol, for
And
drafting it.
Thank you.
all those additions, I think, are great.
Yeah, they are. Trust dividend, Mr. Fiore?
Yes, as we mentioned at our previous meeting, the school committee was fortunate enough to be in a position of being awarded a dividend due to the favorable claims in our health insurance for the fiscal year ending June 30th. So I've put a brief memo in with my recommendation that we put it in the stabilization account, which allows us to use it at any point in the future to either reduce rates or actually get a dividend. And it would give the committee the flexibility to determine when they use these funds. So I put the 4-page memo from the trust in here, and the reason we've had to bring it back so quickly is the trust would like to know our intent by the 15th, which is Saturday, so this is the last meeting that we have to discuss this before their deadline. So I'll be happy to answer any questions or any concerns you have about it.
So we're basically taking the money and putting it in the bank and not applying it to our costs
For
or
this year.
Correct. And from...
spending it.
Yeah, I actually had a meeting today, and the trend is very favorable, so, and we used a 6% increase in our budget, so I don't think that's in jeopardy of us not being able to proceed with that increase.
What would involve the simply taking this money and subtracting from our budget?
You can only, of the $2 amounts, and correct me if I'm wrong, The only available dollars is the 78,000.
Yeah, so
That is one option, but the slight concern I have with that is the money was originally earmarked for health insurance, and that's where we basically put it. So if you took the money back, there's no guarantee that it would necessarily be used for health insurance, but that's kind of only a minor concern.
My concern would be, since we have, as we'll get to when we look at Doug's report, we have, I think, more than a responsible carry forward of $580,000 that we have currently. If we spend everything that we say we're going to spend in the budget and it's approved, adding or reducing it by 78,000 would lower below 1.9, but we don't know what next year or the year after is going to bring.
Yeah, we've
So
actually had a 20% increase one year.
The reason
Yeah,
is we're
we
just
did.
being conservative of our recommendation, that's all. I mean, the committee can do whatever it chooses, but it's ours to play it on the conservative side in light of everything the way it's lining up for us.
no, I just feel that if we need money, we have to ask for it, and we have to justify it. When something comes back, we can return it, and possibly we'll have to ask for it again, but right now, I don't know. We can obviously bank it and put it aside with designation for healthcare in the future, but
And not to, you can never tell, especially in Rhode Island, what's going to happen within a year's time economically. But there is that pension issue that's supposed to be made public tomorrow, and we don't know what impact it will have on us moving forward, for next year and the year after. So we may need those funds. Again, when you talk about unforeseen things, we may need that to offset our healthcare costs, because we're also going to be experiencing, a possible increase maybe in the retirement line item. You never know. So that's just
Right,
one
that's right.
example. And
Yeah.
hopefully that doesn't occur, but.
I think the day may come when we're so flush that maybe we can start, giving dividends back, but I think the prudent thing is to, we can give money back, and then there's I think a rationale for that, and that it's taxpayers' money. It's not ours, it's not the school systems, it's the taxpayers. But I think most taxpayers would agree that the prudent thing to do is, rather than give it back and then come back when we need money next and ask for more, but to sort of keep it in stewardship and use it instead of asking for more money the next time.
I mean, it's an extension of our fund balance. It's, I would love to have had this when we had the year of, I think it was a 20% increase in health insurance, and we really had
Yeah.
the whole budget had to be built around that increase,
right,
and
it did.
some of the other expenses, were sacrificed.
I look at it, if we put it aside and reserve it for health insurance costs, it allows us to avoid the sharp spikes that we've had in the past. And I do remember that year, and it can be very, very difficult. And if there's anything we can do to make, our increases more predictable or flatter, rather than having these sharp spikes.
And I think that's what we've done this year. Is a prime example with the budget. We've used that fund balance to purchase things that we need, so it's only a 1.9.
So we didn't have
let's
to
say
ask for
3.6
it
or
again.
something.
Yeah.
So I think that's the goal the committee's been trying to do, and you have been doing it, so we'll just go along
And
with
each
that.
year, we have two big numbers that are really out of our control, the renewal of health insurance and the pension number. And if you have a cycle where both of those are really high one year, you
Which
may have some
isn't,
difficulty.
which isn't, well, it didn't happen in the too distant past.
Yeah.
We were
Was
always
bad.
concerned
And
with.
special ed.
Right, those are the
Those
three
have been drivers,
right.
yeah.
So, that's where our thinking is.
Do I have a motion then?
I'll move that we put it in the, what is the fund called?
Premium stabilization account.
Stabilization account.
Second.
Any other questions? No? All those in favor? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Spotlight on Success, the middle school?
Yes, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Mitchell.
Our young fella didn't show up. He is Roman House in 8th grade, so he's at the next night. But we had a gold winner, Scholastic Gold winner, Sebastian Vieira, grade 8. He created one of the most amazing three-dimensional pieces I have ever seen on the middle school level, and I guess Scholastic felt the same way. So thought they could make it here between 7 and 7:30, and they couldn't. He created something called Iron Man costume. I did send a picture, I don't know if you received it. And we will walk through the door with this incredible 3D sculpture. We had several other students who also made it into the art show, the Scholastic Art Show, which is at the gallery at Salve Regina University. And they are Sean Bloom Patel, Crystal Vivier, Kristen Kendra, Harley Quixall, Haley Puto, Hope Sherman, Brian Dupere, and Max Kaufman. One of our writers in 7th grade won 2nd place in the entire state, Patriots Pen Essay Contest, and she went to dinner a few weeks ago on a Saturday with their parents and their 2 teachers, Janine Tippetock, ELA, and Social Studies, Sharon Scott. Ariana Burns won 1st place in the Tiverton Middle School essay contest with the Lions Club Peace Poster Contest. It's a poster and it has some text on it and beautiful designs promoting peace. And she won 2nd place in the entire state of Rhode Island. So we've had a lot of successes at Tiverton Middle School on the state level and national level. And we have a 7th grader, Alan Toasty, who's going to the state geography meeting. And our grade level winners were Maxwell Farley, grade 5.
Congratulations.
Grade 6, Chad Carrero, and 8th grade, Robbie Valancourt. So we have some amazing geography aficionados at TMS. So had a lot of success the past few weeks. A lot of spotlight.
That's wonderful, thank you.
He may still walk through the door.
Yeah, so-
Here with that wonderful sculpture.
So they have the exhibits at the town hall every month, and the month of March, they're going to have new artists, so we're going to try to talk to them to see if some of your artists, we can talk to Mr. Eric and see if they want to display them there. That would be nice. And we're going to try to have Quahog Man go if he can get there, that the kids are making. So they asked me if we could do that at the town hall for the month of March. So Mr. Eric will get in touch with you, okay? And I'll call Wanda back. Okay, thank you. Health and wellness advisory visits. Mr. Fiore, Chartwells, and myself went on our famous visits to the schools. And we started doing this a few years ago. We got the Governor's Award for asking the students what they like and don't like. And every year it gets a little better, a little more interesting, and they're a little more comfortable with us. We go every grade 1st through 12. And the schools have been amazingly cooperative. The nurses sit with us. And the kids are so honest now. And Mr. Fiore and I have to control ourselves not to laugh some of the things they say. But the middle school had 14 students attend. And when we first started this, it was if we had 2 or 3 there, and they wouldn't even talk. So every year it's getting, and they tell us what they don't like, and then Chartwells tries to adjust it, and even little things like the vegetables, they wouldn't eat them, so if they could put them in ranch, they would, so who cares? They want the coffee milk back, and since it's the milk of the state, we'll get it back. We're talking to Hood to get it back in the schools. And so thank you all the principals for arranging those visits. So we'll be back in the spring to see the same kids, and then they'll tell us how we did. Thank you. Teacher non-renewal, Mr. Eric?
Yes, it has been our practice the last couple of years. We've only, last year, I don't believe we had any. This year, we have 2 non-renewals. Our practice has been a lot of districts do this. They'll lay off 15, 20, 30 teachers, but in reality, I know why it's done, but in reality, they need them in order to function. So what we're saying is that we need the people we have, and these are the 2 that we need to lay off, no more, no less, and we have to do it by March 1st, and hopefully that legislation gets passed, so June 1st becomes the notification date. But I'm asking to approve the 2 non-renewal notices.
Now, if something comes open, they could come back?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
One will come back
Okay,
if there's an opening.
okay, thank you, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Did he talk?
Any questions?
Yeah. When's he
No.
coming?
Okay, all in favor?
Thank you. Can we skip Attorney Mr. Fiore is going to be contacting Attorney Robinson to see. He said he'd be here by 7:30, but so if we could go to the status of kneecap seniors, if you could take that out of order.
I'll
We'll go
make
right
that
to
motion.
Mr.
I'd like
Bissett,
to move up 6F, status of the kneecap seniors.
and I'll turn it over to Steve once you vote.
Second, all in favor? Okay.
Steve?
Regarding our seniors who are still involved in the kneecap testing requirements, this actually began last March 2013 with 46 seniors who had not met the partial proficiency requirement. It was primarily in the area of math. Since they retook the test in October along with the juniors, 19 made the necessary growth. Additionally, 11 received bank scores from other areas, PSAT, SAT, ASVAB, for example, or they were recipients of the new college waiver that was put in approximately 3 weeks ago by the Department of Education. That took care of 30 of the students. 1 student has transferred. We have 15 students remaining. I contacted all the parents. I sent them a follow-up letter. They have all requested the waiver, which they are eligible to do under our district policy. We are working with the kids, and we've set up some expectations for them to complete the waiver process. All the kids have been very cooperative, and the parents have also been very good to work with. One of the first things this group will try to do is they'll take part in the ASVAB tomorrow, the Armed Services Vocational Assessment Battery. They're going to attempt to achieve a bank score in the mathematics area. So we're hoping that maybe another small group of students will be moved out of this process and have this requirement met. We've also notified the students and the parents that Tiverton High School on March 3rd we'll be working with RIDE to have the kneecap math modified assessment administered. I believe that's a Monday, March 3rd, and that would be one of our other expectations. And the other expectation of the seniors, if they cannot get a statistical growth score at this point on either of those tests, would be for us to track them along with the expectations of passing exams, common assessments in their senior math course. So we are involved with all the parents of these seniors, and we'll be working with them through the whole process.
Mr. Rivett?
Yes, with that said, we are trying to get confirmation from RIDE because we've heard it last week for the first time. We haven't gotten an official confirmation from RIDE that if students took the first and second test, the students that Steve are talking about, those 15.
The kneecap.
The kneecap. If they took it twice, they don't have to take it again in March. People from RIDE have made that statement at 2 statewide meetings for training for this 3rd session. We've asked RIDE to please officially tell us, because obviously that will impact what our kids will be doing.
So what do you mean they don't have to take it?
Well, that's what we're trying to ask, that they won't have to take it in order to be eligible for the waiver. We were always under the assumption that they had to take it
To get the waiver.
every time the kneecap was
Yeah.
offered. Apparently, this RIDE is signaling a change in that expectation. At least that's how most districts have interpreted it.
So you're going to get that in writing?
We hope to, but as of right now, we're going to do as Steve
Right,
just
we'll just
told
go
you.
through that process.
And go ahead, assuming we'll have to test the 3rd time, and if we get word, obviously,
What's the turnaround time for that 3rd test?
we don't, they couldn't, we asked that, the question was asked when we were up at RIDE at the January meeting. Mrs. Black, Mrs. Polish, Steve, Diane, and I went. Someone from another district asked that question, and they really didn't have a definitive answer.
So what was the turnaround from December? It was like 2 months, right?
Well, they took it in October,
Oh,
so we got it in January. Yeah, but there'll be fewer students, so if RIDE was here, I'm sure they'd say it'd be a faster turnaround. I think they said April-ish.
I think they had said the end of April, possibility, yes.
How many of the 19 were partially proficient, and how many actually got, or just had statistical growth?
I'm sorry.
So of the
Statistical
19
growth Or actually meant the 1130
Yeah.
course. I'm not sure, I think.
Several of them,
Exactly, but here.
several got 2s.
I'm looking at it quickly, and I'd say it looks like 60 to 70% of the 19 actually made
Got partial
EP,
division.
You received the
and the
two.
others made their growth.
Every student except one showed growth, even those that didn't make it, all showed growth in their score. So our students did try. It was reflected in the scores, and some did very well. As they scored, they were ones, and now they were full-blown twos. So there was significant growth in several, in all the students. So we were pleased to see that. They took it very seriously, and, that goes to Steve and his staff in
Right.
getting that message delivered to our students and their parents, that this is something that, very important, and that they needed to do their best.
Now, do we administer the ASVAB? Or how does,
The military representatives actually come in and administer.
Okay.
Actually, we support them. We give them the testing area, but they bring everything in, they proctor it, everything like that.
and how long is that test?
That's quite lengthy because it does math and reading, but it also does science and some electronics. And
Does 6 subtests.
And they have to take all,
Probably about 2 to 2.5 hours.
and they have to take all sections?
Yes.
They do
Our
have to
students?
take all of the
But it's
sections.
only the math section
No.
that counts?
It's the
or-
whole score.
It's the whole score?
Because we had students who passed the math. We had 2 students who passed the math on the ASVAB, but didn't get the total score that RIDE required, so they had to take it a second time. So we asked that question. It's the whole, all the subtests,
Right.
there's 6 of them, and the students have to get that cut score, total cut score.
And how long does it take to get the scores on that test?
We're hoping a turnaround of 2 weeks, with the hopefulness that these scores would come back before March 3rd, which would be the next
Yes.
test date for students to do the state test.
Yes. And is this the first time we've had the military in here to do the ASVAB? Or,
We do it every year.
oh, but
But
it's
this
once a
is
year that they
Right, but
come in
not
and
to
do it?
this level.
It's once a year.
Not to the degree of participation.
Right, more students are
And next
participating
year,
this
we're
year.
going to do it sooner,
Yeah.
now that we know what we're doing and what's available for students, we'll
That'll be
have that
good.
in the fall. So the students will at least know, that if they got a cut score or not, how they're doing as opposed to doing it now, later in the school year.
Is there any cost to us or the students?
I'm sorry.
Is there a cost to us or
No.
the students for that test?
How many
Good.
of the 11 students had a bank score, and how many had admission to a college?
Five college, 6 bank scores.
Okay. And does admission to the University of Rhode Island count as,
It would, yes.
Yes, it would.
have the 15 students considered application to a college that would count?
Well, this,
I don't know to what degree the counselors have had the students, depending on where they were in the college app process anyway. I don't know how much more they did with
Because-
some of the kids.
because the
We did
co-
try to move along as many kids who are already in the process, but it was a little difficult if a student had not made college their first choice post-secondary to try to
Right.
have them
and plus,
for a
yeah,
time date, because most of
That's
the, the criteria is based on a time date college, not an open enrollment.
now that will affect, I would assume, students applying next year. You would include URI or Rick in in your pool, simply to, to recommend that, if you do get in, it covers that aspect of it. But again, this didn't come out until January. At that meeting, where they told us, oh, by the way,
We didn't know.
so our students had already been in the process.
There's no guarantee that RIDE won't change that next year.
Oh, there's no, that's true, it's a
So-
fluid situation, Carol.
Guaranteed that there's no guarantee.
Yeah, I don't think we should count on the rules
But
being
we-
the same for the next 6
can
weeks,
al-
let alone the
I can
next
only
6
hope
months.
that they are. Think positively.
But I
In my
can't,
role, Carol.
but I can't thank all of you enough, led by Mr. Eric and Mr. Fazette and the staff, for supporting the students and the parents that have gone through this process. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
And it's good to hear that our parents are being very supportive in helping the students through this process.
And just to reiterate, I was very pleased when I looked at the results that the students improved. Obviously we wanted all of them to get that growth, but that they showed growth,
Yeah,
again, meant that they tried.
That's good.
So that did mean something.
And can you give us a real quick synopsis of the timeline for the waiver process once they've submitted the application?
The waiver process, Steve's already started it.
Right.
And so now there'll be another session, and Carol, please jump in, you helped write it. Students will then have to meet with their guidance counselors. They'll get checked in with their guidance counselors and Steve, probably within sometime next month, to see how they're doing. They'll check with them again in April. So it's really just a check-in to see, are you passing everything? Are you doing what you're supposed to? Just like we would treat, in the past, seniors that were at risk.
Right.
Are you coming to school every day? Are you passing your English 12? So the parents have already been notified, the process has been started. It's really now up to the student, to do their end in the coursework.
Doing the senior project, the
And
community
then May comes
service.
along, then the official waiver is submitted to me. We then have in May, we have a committee that will oversee all the applications, and then they refer them to me for final approval. So May, I think we project middle of May, end of May in our policy, that the waivers would be granted. Pending, assuming everything else clicks, you pass all your other requirements, and you pass your 4th year of math or whatever math classes you happen to be in. And again, other districts may start later, but we determined that we were going to start as soon as we got the scores. So we kicked it in right away. We didn't wait for the March scores,
Okay.
the results from the March scores.
Does anyone else have any questions? No? Okay.
Could we go to G, please?
Yes.
You have a request before you from Ms. Sherry Alves, who's a first grade teacher at Picasset. Sherry's here tonight. She would like to start I think it was pretty well explained in her summary, intervention program before school, 3 days a week in the mornings. Her, along with some student teachers from Roger Williams, would be doing the instructing, and I am recommending the committee approve her request. And Sherry's here to answer any questions you may have.
Sherry, would you like to tell us about it, please? Welcome.
Yeah.
I'm Sherry. I'm at Picasset. I teach first grade there. And I'm in a master's program at Rhode Island College in a leadership cohort. So I'll have an administration degree and also a master's in education. Part of my internship is to participate in leadership roles for 150 hours this semester. I'm under the supervision of Mrs. Blaze at Picasset. And I also work closely with Roger Williams University. I've had a student teacher for the last 5 years. I believe now we have 4 within our building, and they also have to do a project within the school that will better the school in any aspect, but outside of the school day. So I had talked to their direct supervisor and Mrs. Blaze and came up with this plan. So we would be doing such great things for the children who aren't making benchmark, and my specific feelings are for kindergarten and first grade children. I know right now there are a good 10 children who are not meeting benchmark in kindergarten, and unfortunately with half-day K, they're just not getting all of that great instruction time that they could be getting. So that's being a first grade teacher, of course, and knowing how important their reading roots are for future success after grade 3. That is my proposal, being a K2 through 3. We are hoping to have a ratio of 1 student teacher to 5 children. Our biggest hang-up will probably be transportation. So we are going to invite probably 22 at first, and then have an alternate list of maybe 10 children, depending on, who can make these morning meetings. And, some of the parents hopefully want to and are able to get their children there. And I'm also thinking some of the parents that may help them, because then they can be dropped off at 10 of 8 and they will go right to the classroom. However, kindergarten afternoon children, they'll have to be dropped off and picked up. So that's a tricky piece there. I've met with Mrs. Blaze and the reading specialist, and we looked at some progress scores in the Dibbles assessment that we take, and also the running records, DRAs. So we have come up with a developing list, and it's not finalized, and then with your approval, we will go on and invite the children as soon as we can, and then I can't remember the exact dates, but I believe it's soon after February vacation. The week after, I believe I put down, and it's about 7 weeks through until April vacation.
Okay. Do I have any questions? Mr. Barrett, you
Yeah, I
approve
recommend
this?
it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor? Thank you for doing that.
Thank
Sounds
you.
like a
Yes.
wonderful
Thank you,
program.
Yes, it's wonderful to be
That's
able
great.
to offer
That
the
really
children
is.
who
Thank
needed
you.
an extended day and
Yeah.
extended instruction. And I look forward to hearing the results of
Mrs.
how
Santa
it-
has been great at teaching me how to do parent surveys and reflecting on the data from our starting point and later on. I had the art literacy program during the summer, and I love to hear and see what the parents' views are on what we run and how much the children end up enjoying it. So,
Oh.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry.
Are we going back to park?
We certainly can. The man of the hour showed up.
Hi, Mr. Robinson.
Hello.
The issue of, first of all, if you turn, Mrs. Polish could make it this evening because she's not feeling well, asked for a schedule of the field test for park, which I provided to the committee. There are two parts of the field test. The first is the performance-based assessment, which is the test that would be given in March into early April, and then there'd be, which is called, wouldn't be educational without a little acronym, PBA, and then the end of the year, or the EOY assessments would be given from May 5th to June 6th, and you can see the schedule, the number of sessions, the length of sessions, and which schools are participating, and what components they'll be giving our students. As I believe I spoke to Ms. Polish when she asked for this to be placed on the agenda, we had no say in the schools. We had no say in which classes are to be chosen. That was all given to us by RIDE. They also, everybody in the state's doing it. It was not something you could opt out of. So Deb's question was, can parents, if they didn't want their children to come, could they keep them home? And I hope I'm paraphrasing that correctly. And I said I didn't know what what RIDE's requirements were regarding park, because it's new and it's a field test. Keep in mind, these results from these assessments will not be given back to us. If you read the second sheet I gave you, top 10 things you should know.
But it's such teeny little writing. You need
I
a
know,
mic.
but
You need
I read it, and it's clear. Students will not receive scores
No, I know,
from the
that's what it
field
says.
test.
Was there any explanation for why districts would not get the results, at least by grade?
I would
even if
think the answer would be the same, that they gave the purpose of the field test to gather info about test items and how well the test functions.
In other words, not to inform districts about how
No.
students
Not to tell
are
us.
doing, but
No.
for the
This is
test,
merely validating the concept.
it's for the company
Yes.
that's making and selling the test.
I would say that's correct.
So I guess the first question I would have, Devin talked to me a little bit about this as well, and I think it's a good question. So do we have any legal option to say thanks but no thanks?
The answer is yes. But let me start saying, this was a tough one for us when we started looking at it, because there's the local responsibilities of school committees and the written responsibilities of the commissioner to test. And I have a position on that, which I'll be happy to go through with you. But after I talked to the superintendent last time, I took it upon myself to call Deputy Commissioner Abbott. And I said, I want to talk to you about some of the legal theories that I have regarding this. And he said, you mean about the park preliminary tests? I said, yes. He said, well, those are voluntary. I said, what? He said, those are voluntary. So I said, would you please check that with them and call me back?
And put it in writing?
and
have it notarized?
You can take him without his knowledge.
Well, he's my own partner. I really couldn't do that to him. But I did tell him I would say this publicly at the school committee meeting. Are you sure this is the committee's position? He said, yeah. And unfortunately, Bill, I tried to reach
That's
after
okay.
that. You know, I give you a heads up.
I probably would have, whatever.
What I would say is, it's not unusual to get mixed signals from Rod.
No.
But this is the deputy commissioner. He stopped what he was doing out of deference to me. He went to them. He said, yes, it is voluntary. We would, before you said we won't participate, we would like to have an opportunity to tell you why we think it's a good idea you participate. But, so, I mean, I'm happy to walk through my legal theories for this great battle I was ready to enter into for you, but if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it.
Why would we not participate?
What benefit is it to our students?
The benefit to the students is that, and the same as if you try to test if some instrument actually works, and as a patient you are going to take part in it to make sure that this tool actually is calibrated, it's going to work properly in the future if it's going to be used. So, and two, I'm completely always against some organized protests telling kids, don't take these tests, because the next thing is, why do you tell me that's okay not to take this? What about the other one? It's just not teaching the right habits. What's the harm?
What's the harm?
Yep.
Well,
Time away from instruction and quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you use the analogy of medical trials. There's really two types, and I think it's a metaphor that fits. There are trials that are conducted because the patient has either no good option, and so they are undertaking the medication to actually, because there's some health that's going to benefit them directly. When you're doing something that actually doesn't directly benefit the trial participant, that actually has to be very voluntary on the part of the subject. And this is by no means voluntary on the part of the students. It does not benefit the students directly. There's no measurable benefit to the students. We don't get the result. It doesn't necessarily make them smarter. It doesn't make them better test takers. It really doesn't benefit the children that we're imposing the test on. So I think we have to really look at whether or not it's actually benefiting the children in their education, and also whether or not it's using the money of the town to run a school, administer the test for, looks like 3 hours per grade, which is not insubstantial. So it really is taking them away from valuable instructional time, when already with NECAP and other types of evaluations that are mandated by RIDE, we're taking them, again, away from instruction, not only during the time of the test, but we're also teaching to the test to some extent. So I don't see a benefit really at all.
The only benefit that I could think of that RIDE might say is that our students get the experience of taking similar questions. The test questions give them some introduction into what would be expected of them outside of that. Without getting the results back, it doesn't help us as educators as to help guide our teaching or our curriculum or any of those
And is that benefit
items.
substantial enough to say we're going to take 3 hours, or if we 75 minutes, it's 50 to 75 minutes, right? Something like that?
Yes, and 70 to 105 minutes at the high school.
At a minimum, because these are not time tests, or are they timed?
I'll ask Diane if she knows.
Similar to what we have now, where there is a lot of time, and then for students who do need additional time, they can go up to a certain amount. It's not like MCAS where they could go all day.
So if we call it 75, that's 235 minutes, right? So that's 4 hours.
Yeah, it's 3 hours and 75 minutes, which is 4 hours.
In terms of students benefiting from seeing the kinds of questions, it would be a small group of students. It's not all of them, and they could just as easily be traumatized, quite frankly, by the experience, because I've been reading that has happened. Even teachers who have taken some of these sample PARC or SMART tests have said they're very frustrating and not a positive experience in any sense of the word.
No test is a positive experience because it challenges you and asks you questions. It's not drinking coffee and having cookies and milk. It's a challenge, and that's how people grow, because
Yes,
they accept
but-
the challenges, and next time it feels different.
Tests that you've had a chance to prepare for or been prepared for, I think they can be positive experiences. I think students do walk out of exams feeling either that they were stretched intellectually or they were able to demonstrate their mastery. That won't happen here because, especially in the ELA, we haven't aligned our curriculum. So students may well be asked to perform tasks that they have not been prepared to perform yet. And that is not a positive experience, to be asked to do things, especially when you're a young child and perhaps very interested in performing well at school, and you're put in front of an exam which is unlike anything you've ever seen, and you haven't been prepared for it. I can imagine that would be a very negative experience.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I would venture to guess that there's probably as much chance that it is a positive experience as it is a negative experience. Again, there is no benefit to the children themselves other than this theoretic one. If we want to give them challenges, I think we have other challenges that are more meaningful educational.
Can I make a suggestion to the committee?
Please.
This item, I believe the information that Deb requested, I've provided. And I think the committee, I can invite someone, based on what Steve's told us, reach out to RIDE.
Right.
And ask somebody to come.
And then Deb will be here.
Before the test period. We could have them at our first meeting in March, for example.
Right.
and still,
That would be good.
a week or two before the test period, is to have someone come from RIDE. You listen to what they have to say. Steve can be in attendance as well, and you can then listen to the presentation, take no action, say thanks for coming, but we don't want our kids. And again, I'm taken aback by and I'm not saying it wasn't said, but I'm taken aback that now it's not required. So I'm still one of those, I'll believe it when I see it, not necessarily when I hear it. But hopefully RIDE can confirm that for us.
I think that's a good
and
idea.
And then present it to the committee, and then you take what they say, and then make a informed decision.
Right, about whether...
And maybe there's things we don't know that are out there. I don't want to
Let them
pretend to
come and
speak.
say what they
I don't want
have.
to pretend to speak for them.
That would
Nor
be
do
good.
I want to, be in a position to defend it.
Because this is
either.
a whole new thing now. We haven't heard that, so that would be a good idea.
That would be my recommendation.
I would also like to hear from the teachers from the grade levels that would be tested as to whether they think it would be a positive experience or a productive one for students. And at that point, I think we need to make the decision, one as a committee, whether we want any of our students to participate, and if we do want to give students the opportunity to participate, how we communicate with parents,
Yep.
that it is a voluntary
I agree.
experience, that if they decide they don't want their child to spend the 4 hours or so taking a standardized test and not get a score back and not know anything about how their child performed, how would we let them know the process for opting out?
No, and I think that would probably be an outcome, one of the outcomes you'd be looking at. If that's,
If it's the committee's will, I'll send a letter to the
please.
Commissioner's office
please do.
and confirm.
Let them know how delighted we were to hear that it's voluntary.
Yeah, please do that first part.
And also that you're very concerned about it and would like a representative.
That would be good.
That would be great.
That would be good, thank you.
Thank you.
Well done with me?
I'm all done, thank you.
That was good.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Wondering if the principals could please ask some of the effective teachers to come to that.
And I
meeting
also
as well.
would obviously want the principals to give
Of
their.
course, we
Yeah.
want
You
the
know,
principals
Yes.
to say how they feel
Because when
about it.
students are pulled out of
Thanks, Steve.
classes to do this, then they're not moving forward with their regular curriculum. You have 2 classes out of your 5 now who are 2 or 3 days behind because they were involved in testing, and that can prevent all 5 classes from moving forward in the curriculum.
So if you were going to, say, do this for, say you're going to call somebody to do it out of their high school social studies, it's a week of class. It's 4 hours.
Yes.
So that's a good idea, to have them down, and listen to
Well, it
them.
would be 4 classes,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
because
so-
it's one day, so they're losing 4 classes, not
No, no,
necessarily
but
4.
Say you were going to say, we're going to.
You lose English, math.
First period every
Yep.
day this
Mhm.
week, you're going to go take this test. That's what you're
No,
doing.
that's correct. All right, so we'll do that.
Okay, so
and
that sounds good.
Hopefully, they'll give us.
Thank you, Mr.
They'll
Vera.
confirm Steve's statement, and then we can go further, or maybe, you know,
Okay.
comes March 24th.
That's sensible, thank you. Okay, reports and announcements?
No, we have fund balance.
Oh,
Mr.
fund
Fiore.
balance, I'm sorry. Back to
6E.
fund balance.
Page 6E in the package. At the last meeting, Mrs. Polish and also a budget committee member asked for me to update our fund balance analysis. So what you have before you is our fund balance as of the end of the audit, the end of June, $784,435. And then what I've done is summarize the requests that we've gone through as the budget process has evolved, and I've separated the requests by school, so you can see the high school, middle school, and elementary school requests, and they're itemized below, and technology requests also. So you have the grand total of all of those requests totaling $239,655. And when you subtract that from our fund balance, if we finish on budget for the year, which I anticipate we're not going to be too far away from, we would end up with a fund balance of $544,780, which is about 2% of our appropriation for the year.
2%.
So this is mostly for informational purposes. There's no new information on here. But I just wanted to demonstrate kind of where we are based on some of the discussions that are happening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fiore.
And if the committee has no objection, I'll forward a copy of this to the budget committee, who also have.
Okay, thank you. Is that it now? Reports and announcements?
Yes, the school committee, for anyone who's available, we'll be having a walkthrough at Fort Barton School on February 22nd at 9 o'clock. It's a Saturday. They asked to visit that school when we went before them last month. And parent-teacher conferences at all our schools are this Wednesday and Thursday. Budget committee.
Budget committee.
Well, you too, you're invited since it's our buildings.
Well, I know that.
Which school is it that the budget
It's Fort
committee?
Barton.
That's the way the schools are.
That's why
Have you
I'm
been in
usually
the
the one
boiler room?
walking the buildings.
I go with you.
And Mrs. Black
I
is
go.
always there.
Show them how lovely everything is.
So we'll be there on the 22nd at 9 a.m.
Any other reports and announcements? Yes?
Okay, there are a couple of announcements coming out of Ranger. Reading is alive and well at Ranger School. We started, and I passed out a couple of articles for the committee's committee members, just so you have a copy. But this past week, 40 students began the weekly after-school book club, and we're going to meet, the club will meet during the month of February and March. The club's going to run until March 5th. Mrs. Curtis and Mrs. Truba facilitating the book club, and they're very excited about spending extra time, quality time, reading with their students. The second announcement is our grade 1 students were asked by a parent of one of the students in grade 1 to do a Feinstein Good Deeds project. It was a first grade student. First grade students created birthday cards for a young boy who was very sick. The boy lives in Ohio, and I've got 2 pictures of the kids in all the birthday cards that they put together, and they'll be mailed out to the young boy in Ohio.
And you'll remember to give me the Ranger Rose, right, with Ben on the cover?
Ranger Rose is available online. And I'll also give you a copy.
No, I want a real one.
Okay.
I know that laugh.
Okay, Mr. Fazette?
Through the efforts of Mrs. Larson and Mrs. Moore, we have junior achievement now in one of our classes, in one of Mrs. Moore's career pathways classes. The instructors are Emil Cipolla, who's a retired IBM executive and college professor, and Ron Fiore, who is now a financial advisor and real estate investor, previously had been a car dealership owner. And also Mrs. Black alluded before, Mr. Tracy and his art students submitted an entry into the 9th annual Newport Illumination Garden, I guess in relation to Winter Celebration Week, and it was accepted. Basically, it's an 8-foot tall monument to a new local superhero called Quahog Man. So that is supposedly done in the art room for us to see now. They were finishing it today, so that will grace Ballard Park in Newport.
That's wonderful.
Winter vacation.
Very good.
That's wonderful. Anybody else?
Just briefly, Mrs. Black, also in the package, what I actually handed out before the meeting is our actual financials through January. The only item that I'm keeping an eye on is the heating oil line item because of the harshness of the winter. We're about $20,000 ahead of where we were last year at this time. I don't anticipate a problem because of the savings in some of the other areas, but that's just what we
Keep an eye on that, yeah. Okay. And Saturday I went to the Bryant University to the leadership symposium, and it was about social media, and they were talking about all the different things people are doing, and they said if you go online or the patch or something, not to feed the troll, the person that's always. So I said, well, you can look at that 2 ways. You can ignore it, but then in Tiverton, you say something 3 times, it's true. So sometimes you have to bat the troll down, and you just can't. You have to have a truth squad, and that's what we do. So they thought that was good. They weren't used to. They're very happy to see Tiverton come because they always get a laugh. But it was a great session. I appreciate Gary Sass and the Rhode Island Association of School Committees doing those things. And I did get a ride. I was picked up at Gaudet Middle School and swept over there because I had no idea where I was going. Thank you. It was very good. And tonight we went to Economic Development at the Meeting House. They had a meeting with all the business leaders in town, the town council. It was really a good reception. So we hope that moves us forward. Thank you. Anything else? No? All right.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?